Good afternoon. Everybody surviving so far? It's like, yeah, lots of information, hard decisions. Which session do I go to? All of them are so great, wealth of information that is applicable to all of our subset diseases. So thank you for joining us here in equine therapy. So first off, I just wanted to say, so my daughter she's been doing equine therapy since she was 6 years old. And so I can go on and on after this session about how it's benefited her personally. So, but first, I'm going to introduce Anthony Busaka. He is our master level riding instructor at Inspiration Ranch. We love him, love him. He has over 35 years of experience in the equine assisted services profession. And so, yeah, I'm going to pass the mic on and hand it off to you now.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us today. We've got our presentation here. I actually just came from the barn. It's a hot day, so I brought you some of the smells of the barn. And I didn't look on the bottom of my shoes, but I might have even brought you a little. Anyhow, I'll clean up after myself. All right. We'll go down the line. Darlene and Justine are going to talk more about Inspiration Ranch itself, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a overview of therapeutic riding. Here are our credentials here. All right, and here's the things we're going to cover. Overview of equine-assisted activities, the safety measures we take, and some of the fun stuff we do, competitions. Today, we just packed up the horses and left for the state Special Olympics show. Oh, what happened there? All right. Briefly, come on. So therapeutic riding has been documented way back through history in ancient Chinese and Greek literature, that riding has been proven to be beneficial for people recuperating from injury or disease. Modern times, therapeutic riding became recognized and popular in Europe after World War II. Same thing that kind of we're seeing with veterans coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq. After World War II, there were a lot of disabled soldiers, injured soldiers. So they recognized that riding a horse could help with rehabilitation. Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Darlene, who is I'll let Darlene introduce herself, because if I get it wrong, she's my boss. If I get it wrong, I'll get in trouble.
Funny guy. All right, my name is Darlene Carey. I'm the Therapeutic Riding Program Manager at Inspiration Ranch. So Inspiration Ranch was founded in 2006. They were located in the Woodlands, which is just north of Houston. And they were on 7 acres, had no resources, no water, no electricity. But they know that through childhood experience that they wanted to use their horses, their personal horses, to help benefit people with trauma or disabilities. And so that's kind of how Inspiration Ranch started. And then after that, it flooded about 4 to 5 times a year. So Hurricane Harvey kind of sent them out to Magnolia, higher ground. And now we are sitting at 40 acres, have a beautiful facility. And we are able to bring in more horses because we have more acres. And we are also a PATH International accredited center. And Anthony's going to go over a little bit more about what PATH is. And we have currently 24 horses on property. We have them split up between the TR, and that's the therapeutic riding side, and the mental health side. Oops, I don't know what I just did. Sorry. We serve over 100 clients per week, and that comes out to be almost 200 volunteers. And when I'm talking about volunteers in therapeutic riding, we have volunteers for everything, but during the riding because we have riders with disabilities, we're going to have a leader on that horse, supporting the horse, leading the horse, directing the horse. And then possible sidewalkers, 1 or 2 sidewalkers on the sides of the horse, either physically holding the horse on or not. I don't know what happened. Hold on. There we go. Maybe just got tired. It's fine. We also have an education part where we will actually train new instructors that Anthony is in charge of. I don't know what's happening here. I'm not really doing anything. Just not going to touch that. Anthony's in charge of teaching new instructors and having them go through the PASS certification. At Inspiration Ranch, we do a very big range of ages from 3 to the elderly. We have many different diagnoses. The most diagnosis we have is autism, and it can range from nonverbal straight to high-functioning autism. A lot of our riders will have more than 1 diagnosis as well. So CP, we have about 20 cerebral palsy, and other diagnoses, Down syndrome, spinal cord injury, MS. And here's Anthony's going to talk about some PATH.
All right, so PATH International, Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship, is the umbrella organization that oversees all therapeutic riding centers through the country that are PATH members. There's over 850 centers, of which Inspiration Ranch is part of. About a quarter of them are accredited centers, fully accredited, so going through this long, arduous process that we just did earlier this year. Inspiration Ranch is a PATH accredited center, so you can be a member, just pay your dues, or you can go through all this other, jump through all these other hoops to become accredited. If you're going to enroll your child in a riding center, you do want to make sure they're an accredited center. There's over 6,500 individual members around the world. Most of those are instructors. PATH has riding centers and instructors in many other countries. So it's not only here. A lot of other countries look to the U.S. and PATH International for guidance. PATH provides center accreditation, instructor certification, and educational events to kind of keep everybody up to speed with new and upcoming things. So what you're probably most interested in as far as using this for your child or family member is what are the benefits. Here we have our diagram, our cartoon diagram of the horse, and then from the back, and then we look at a silhouette of the horse from the side. But as the horse moves, as it walks, it duplicates our gait, our human walk. The horses have walk, trot, canter, so they have different gaits, but the walk is the most therapeutic gait. And if you can imagine sitting on a horse, how it shifts your seat bones, right, left, right, left. Come on. So I think I just heard a report about AI. I think AI, artificial intelligence, is taking over here on our remote. It's telling us we're going too slow, I guess. Let's see if we can. All right, so here we. It's on its own.
I'm glad because I thought I was doing it.
Here, let's see. I'm going to go up. Nope. What I want to do, all right, benefits of riding. 30 minutes sitting on a horse just passively. If you sit on a horse just passively and go around in circles for 30 minutes, you're going to feel 2,000 to 3,000 steps. The horse has 4 legs, 4 feet, so there's 4 steps in a stride. That's a lot of input, especially for somebody who doesn't ambulate typically, or even more so uses a wheelchair and doesn't engage their trunk and postural muscles. They're going to get that 2,000 to 3,000 separate inputs in just a 30-minute passive ride. It's a huge amount of stimulation. It's actually one of the reasons we have to be careful with children below a certain age. So below 2 years old, our minimum is 3, but below that 2 to 3 year old threshold, their bodies might not be formed enough. Their skeletal and muscular systems may not be formed enough to absorb all that movement. As the child gets older, it's definitely something we use, take advantage of. So think of yourself sitting on a horse. As the horse accelerates, inertia throws you back. The horse decelerates, inertia throws you forward. If the horse turns right, centrifugal force carries you to the left and vice versa. So your body is getting very constant. Every step, every second, your body's getting this constant workout that's unconscious. You're not consciously doing it. You're reacting to the horse's movement. So your postural muscle, your trunk muscles, your righting reflexes, everything is getting this very natural exercise platform. There's nothing else that duplicates it. There's no machine, there's no other type of equipment that can duplicate the horse moving underneath you. So it's very unique, very powerful. We deal with a wide range of muscle tone, altered muscle tone from high tone to low tone. And there's a lot that goes into picking the right horse, picking the right equipment to try to get as normal range of muscle tone as possible, which results in improved range of motion in all the joints. All right, I'm going to give it a try here for our next.
Oh, it moved. You're good.
I think it was.
You're good.
So riding is a total body system exercise. Your mind, your physical being, and your emotions, everything's involved, whether you have a disability or not. You ride the horse, everything's involved. You can't leave something out. All learning styles, auditory, visual, and kinesthetic, are constantly being brought into play. We can emphasize one or the other. So somebody might have a strong auditory learning style or visual learning style. There's the theory that movement helps us organize our brains, organize our thought process. And the kinesthetic learning style is always there. The horse is moving, helping people to organize and attend. One thing that's not as apparent when you think about, everybody thinks, oh, horseback riding, that's gonna be so great. You know, the kids must love the horses, but what's behind that is that horses are very non-threatening in nature, not like people. So we're the predators, right? We have eyes in the front of our heads, always looking for the next meal, whereas the horse is a prey animal, eyes on the side of the head, always scanning the horizon for something that's threatening. So a lot of our riders don't like to make eye contact and look at you in the face, and they find things like that threatening, just like our horse does. So they feel so much more relaxed around a horse. Dogs are more like people than horses, so the person may not relax as much around their family dog as they do around the horse at the riding center. So the horse's basic nature relaxes the person, lets the person open up. That's why you'll often hear the autistic child's first words were said at the riding center, either the horse's name or telling the horse to walk on, something like that. So with that in mind, sitting on a horse, a big 1,000-pound or 1,200-pound animal, is a risk activity. It's a controlled risk activity because we put in all these safety measures, but it's still a risk activity. So it's somebody's chance to get their adrenaline going, get all those chemicals we're supposed to feel pumping through our bodies and causing stimulation. Under the umbrella of equine assisted activities, or I dated myself, now it's equine assisted services. It used to be equine assisted activities. But we have driving, carriage driving, sitting in a vehicle behind one in hand, one horse, two in hand, two horses, all the way up to, like if you watch the Wells Fargo commercials, that's 6 in hand, 6 horses pulling that stagecoach. So we have driving, vaulting, hippotherapy, therapeutic riding and horsemanship, and equine facilitated mental health. So we're going to take a look at each of those very briefly. Here's driving. Somebody is being rolled up to the driver's seat of the cart, two-wheel cart, with a up the ramp. It has a ramp that folds down. So this person may not be appropriate for riding because of their physical condition, but they can roll right up to the driver's seat of the cart and drive, participate in an equine sport. Then vaulting is like gymnastics on horseback. And there are different forms, but we see our little girl on the left standing on the horse, balancing, putting her arms out. We see the little boy on the right kneeling on the horse, putting his arm and leg out, balancing. And in the middle there we see interactive vaulting, 2 children on the horse. So this is, vaulting is basically limited to people small enough to do it. So my vaulting days are long gone. You don't see me up there doing it. But for developing children, it's very, very powerful. Coordination, cooperation. It's a very useful intervention. All right, hippotherapy. So you say, what's hippotherapy? They use hippos, hippopotamuses. Hippo is the Greek word for horse. So they say, well, instead of equine therapy, we'll call it hippotherapy. Who knows? But this is a medical intervention conducted by someone who has a license from whatever state they practice in. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language pathology. At Inspiration Ranch, we have a speech language therapist that works with us, and we have a physical therapist that's in our instructor training program. So, down the road, we may be able to offer physical therapy. But we see here, it's a little different. When you look at this, the horse, that's like a large pony, there's nobody leading it. There's nobody at the horse's head controlling it. Obviously, the little girl sitting on the horse's back isn't controlling it. But if you look carefully, there's somebody behind the horse ground driving it, which produces better movement. So when we do hippotherapy, we're looking at producing the maximum benefit in the movement of the horse. So it's very specific. It's very scientific in its approach. And the goals are improved quality of life, improved function. PTs are interested in gross motor, OTs fine motor, speech language, interested in communication. So all the therapies that improve human body function. What Justine does, and she'll come up and talk now, is also therapy, but it approaches it from a different plane. So I'll let Justine introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Justine. I am the mental health program coordinator at Inspiration Ranch. I'm just going to give you a real brief little snapshot of what we do over in mental health. So the modality or the principles that we follow that kind of drives everything that we do in our program is called natural lifemanship. And natural lifemanship is a trauma-informed practice. So for us, that means a couple of things. One of those is that we believe that attuned and connected relationships are the vehicle for change, growth, and healing. Number two, we strive to understand the neurobiology of trauma. So the number one issue that we deal with on the mental health side is actually anxiety. Most of our clients are adolescents to young adults, and we educate our clients to understand what's going on inside their brains and their bodies when their nervous system is starting to tell them that they're unsafe. And that leads us to the importance of rhythm, which Anthony kind of touched on. But when you use rhythm as a tool to activate your senses, you can provide regulation to your nervous system. And that in tune can help bring your mind back to a state of calm or state of control. So we're teaching our clients these types of skills. So why horses? There are actually a lot of great reasons why horses are amazing for this type of work. I'm just going to touch on a couple, which we've kind of briefly mentioned before. One of those is that horses are herd animals, so they're naturally wired for connection and relationship. So in our sessions in our mental health program, we are facilitating building a healthy relationship between the client and a horse of their choosing. So we're touching on topics like connection, consent, mutual respect, empowering both beings in the relationship to make choices that are best for both. And we believe that through these experiences, new healthy habits are formed. Another reason that horses are great for this type of work is that they're prey animals. So in order for them to survive in their environment, they have to be highly attuned to what we call incongruence. And what I mean by that is that what we portray on the outside is not the same as what we're feeling on the inside. So if you think of a lion hunting a horse, on the outside, that lion's portraying cool, calm, collected, don't look at me, nothing's going on here. But inside, there's this high attack, kill energy. And horses are only going to truly connect when they feel safe. And so horses feel safe when we're being honest. So as you can imagine, this provides a lot of opportunity to practice checking in with ourselves and acknowledging the different kinds of emotions that come up when we face different challenges. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do in our program. We do this in a couple of different ways. Our main way is our equine assisted psychotherapy. So we do that in group therapy sessions and individual psychotherapy sessions. We also have equine assisted learning. The biggest difference between those two is that it's a licensed mental health professional providing treatment in the psychotherapy. We're dealing with processing current and past, possibly processing trauma, where in the equine assisted learning groups, we're not doing any processing at all, but we're still using the same principles and teaching the same skills that I just went over. You're not always going to have an LPC or licensed professional counselor present in the equine assisted learning. And then I just wanted to, let's see. Is it up there? So I just wanted to also plug this because we've got this going on next month. So If anybody has anyone, family members or anyone interested, you can take a picture of this slide, but we are doing a teen girls therapy group. In June, we've got 3 different sessions. They're week-long sessions, 2 hours a day. So this is just our current summer program. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask me after the presentation.
Okay, so a little bit more on therapeutic riding and horsemanship. In the therapeutic riding, we are teaching our riders riding skills. And when I say riding skills, I am going to ask my clients how to teach how to tell a horse to whoa and to walk on, or steer their horse or do a circle. And the reason that's going to go into everyday life is, say I'm teaching Sophia how to tell her horse to walk on. She is now going to kick her legs to walk on. Well, her mom says, hey, when I'm at a stop sign, she taps her foot all the time telling me you need to run this red light. So that's going to her everyday life, is she's learning how to communicate. Now, maybe she could just say walk on, but we're working on it. But we're on our way of communicating. She's communicating with her horse. She's going to communicate in the real life. Okay, so just to get a little idea of our intake process at Inspiration Ranch, we start off with an application. It's simple. You're just going to have name, address, emergency contact, all that info. We're going to find out your primary diagnosis and if there's any secondary diagnosis. And then once we get that application, we are then going to get a physician's release. It comes from your doctor. We provide the form, and it's going to say, essentially, here's the precautions, or there's no precautions, but we think therapeutic riding or riding horses in general is going to benefit. After we look at the application and the physician's release, we're going to screen them for all the precautions and contraindications, and we are going to see if we think that we can help this rider out, because we have to have the right type of horse, we have to have the right type of equipment to be able to support certain precautions, such as seizure disorders. If we have a client that has seizures where they start shaking pretty hard, we're going to want to make sure we have a horse available that isn't going to react to either noises or shakes. A contraindication is going to be that atlantoaxial instability. That's going to be for a lot of the Down syndrome clients. We need to make sure that there is no atlantoaxial instability, and that's just the top of their spine and their neck is going to be unstable for horseback riding. We're going to do an on-site evaluation. We will bring the client in and actually put them on a horse. And we like to do that, again, to make sure that we have a horse available that will fit the needs. We want to know what support. Do they need 2 sidewalkers? Do they need a leader? What type of equipment is needed? And also, do they want to ride? We do have some kids will come in and they love horses, and then they see one and they're like, yeah, no, I don't think so. So we will try to work with that. We will get their helmet fit. We want to make sure it is mandatory that all riders have helmets. We do provide the helmets, but we want to make sure that we have one that fits. And then at the end of the evaluation, we'll get together as a team and decide if therapeutic riding is going to benefit that rider or not, and then where do we put them? Do we put them in an individual class, a little bit more one-on-one, or are they able to go into a group class? And we do love the group classes because we, as humans, are social animals, and the group, almost every parent tells me they want their child to be more social. So we do try to do the group, but there are those special cases where one-on-one is the most appropriate. Here are just some pictures of our mounting area. On the left, that is our ramp that goes up into our mounting area. We use this obviously for wheelchair-bound clients, but also clients that have a hard time getting up on stairs and lifting their legs. They would just walk up the ramp. And then the one on the right is that's the end of the ramp. So that's going to be the steps to get up into the mounting area. The horse would just come through from the left side in between those two pieces of wood, and they would stand there to mount. So here's the front view of that, and this is the mechanical lift. So if they're in a wheelchair or they need to sit down, we would use this mechanical lift if we are mounting riders that are a little heavier or physically unable to put weight on their left leg to be able to lift themselves over. This is just a safer way where we would put them in, it would lift them up, drag them over, and then set them down on the horse. Safety is number one. As he said, we use this is a risk activity, but safety is number one. So if we are using stirrups, we make sure that all our stirrups are safety stirrups, so that the foot does not, one, go through or get stuck. If any emergency were to happen, we want their feet to be free and then to be able to safely come off the horse. We have adaptive reins. These are just different types of reins. These are what we steer the horse with. So the one on the left, say there's a client with a stroke that can only steer one-handed. So they have one bar they hold onto, and they're able to steer their horse left and right. The colored reins in the center is great for a lot of kids too, because you can give them a visual of where to hold their reins instead of just saying, shorten your reins or lengthen your reins. You can say, okay, let's go to the color yellow. I know, thank you. Okay, and the one on the right, those are bite grip reins, and these are great for if we want to get that fine motor skills. They're kind of rubber, and they're gonna build that strength in that hand, and they don't have to worry about shortening and lengthening the reins. All they have to worry about is holding those reins. These are the different types of equipment saddle that we would use. The one on the left is an English or dressage saddle. If you notice, it looks a little different than the one in the middle. It doesn't have that horn on the front. So if you have a rider that may be getting on, it's called a crest mount, putting the legs over the neck, you're gonna want maybe a dressage or an English saddle so that the leg doesn't get caught in the horn. The one in the middle is a Western saddle. That is gonna give our rider a little bit more support. And then the one on the right is actually a surcingle. That could be put on with a bareback pad. And when our riders are using that, they're gonna be closer to the horse and feeling more movement than if they were on the saddle. As Anthony mentioned, we do a couple of horse shows. This is the Top Hands Horse Show. If you're from Houston, it's a livestock show and rodeo every March. And they have this the weekend before. They have the Top Hand shows for any riders with disabilities, and we go and we participate at the NRG Arena. And this was back in February. And then we are currently at Special Olympics Show. This is this is a photo from when we were in area. We're actually in state right now in Bryan, Texas. And all our riders are gonna be competing tomorrow. This is the para-equestrian competition. If you notice, it doesn't have to be leaders and sidewalkers. These aren't our personal riders, but there are other centers that have riders that are wonderful riders and go into the Olympics for riding. And if you can see, they have some wonderful equipment that has adapted to their disability to be able to ride those horses. All right, these are our emails. They're pretty simple. They're our names, but inspirationranch.org. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
Question.
Yes. Is there any international certification? We're not here from around, but we're really interested for this kind. Is there any certification over the world or whatever? Because we're from Mexico, so we don't know what to search for specifically.
international certification for,
The therapies.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Equine therapy.
PATH International is the American version of that. That the term international is there, part of the PATH name. But it doesn't mean there's reciprocity between PATH and other countries with their own therapeutic riding programs. Japan, Korea, Middle Eastern countries, they tend to look to the U.S. Great Britain, Europe, they kind of do their own thing. So they do have their own certification bodies, but here in the U.S. it's PATH International. Yeah, there's reciprocity with some of them, but with not all of them.
But also, just to add on to that answer, I would search for therapeutic riding barns. Therapeutic riding barns.
That was a really great question because we do have a lot of families international, and even now this session is recorded, so this will get out to many of our families living abroad. And I wanted to add to that, having, that gold standard where you can go to the website and figure out, okay, this is what typically is required. These are, the level of training that, and practices that's involved. You can kind of do a side-by-side comparison to see, well, how does this differ from what we're doing in your own home country? So thank you for that question.
I just wanted to add, and just in support of what you've heard today, for us personally, Sophia has been riding probably 10 years. And for those of you that are starting this journey, I would tell you that for me and my wife, of all the things that we've done for her, everything we've tried, hippotherapy probably is the one thing that there's a line of sight into the progression of, she was barely walking, falling a lot, no core strength at all, and then 1 week to the third week to the 6th week, you start seeing changes, and it's the one thing that you're gonna see something line of sight that you can put your hands on. Not that the other therapies were not working, but to me, as a dad, until the day that I cannot do it or she can't do it, she'll ride a horse. And so I would encourage you all to, at the appropriate time for your kids, to enroll them, look for the opportunity, because I think it's going to be quite dramatic, the changes that you're going to see. Posture, the ability for her to continue to walk, I think it's always related to that. And, we're dealing with a degenerative disease, and if we can do something to delay it, that's the name of the game for me. So.
Question.
Just a simple question. You guys, you say you start at 3, right? 3 years old.
Yeah, we go from 3 until elderly, am I correct? 3. It varies. If you have therapists on staff, you can take them as young as 2. Nobody really takes them younger than 2. But, so 3.
My daughter is 2.
Yeah. What I would do is I would recommend either finding a program that was run by therapists, and there really aren't a whole lot of them in our area. Are you from Houston area? Yeah, give it till 3, and then we'll do the evaluation process, because her sitting on the horse as the horse is moving, head and neck control has to be solid enough to withstand that movement and all. So yeah, I would give it till, but you can start getting her ready for it. Get her the Breyer horses to play with, and
I'd like to add to that too. So when we learned about equine therapy and hippotherapy and all of that for the very first time, Sophia, I believe she was 5 years old. She might have been 5 years old. And at the time, I heard about it on TV. There's a whole medical segment about it. And we were struggling in physical therapy, as so many of our little ones they are just absolutely averse to physical therapy. They're screaming bloody murder when they're little, and they're like, what are you doing to me? This is torture. And so I needed to find a less torturous way to still give her that physical therapy that she needed. And so I saw this news segment, and I thought, that's what I need to do. And so I inquired, and although she was 5 at the time, the waiting list, there's such a high interest in this, emerging, I say emerging, it's been around a long time, but a lot of newly diagnosed families may have never heard of it before. And so I got on the waiting list, and so it was a few months long. So just trying to start now, identifying what ranches are nearby, what services are nearby, and then investigating, do they offer what my child needs, and is there a wait list, what are costs, does my insurance cover it, things of that nature. Are there grants out there? Yes, they are. I'm going to say yes, there are. So those are things to kind of consider. And then I'll also, you have a question over here? Oh, back here? Okay. And I was just going to say, as Walter was saying, I wouldn't trade this form of therapy for anything else. It's just been what has really worked in my situation to help, gain that balance that she needs. Her walk was really wide and awkward and mechanical when she first started, and she had to wear a protective helmet at the time because she was having falls. She has stitches there to always remind me how far we've come. So I can personally attest that over time, it's not going to happen overnight in many cases, but over time, if you stick with it, you are going to see those incremental improvements in muscle tone and balance and coordination. So definitely look into it and start looking at those interest lists and where those ranches are. Go ahead and pass it.
Yeah, I've spent a little bit of time around horses, and I know a lot of horses respond different to certain things. That being said, what kind of training, or to what extent are the therapeutic horses trained?
Yeah. So actually, there's different approaches, but I'm going to let Darlene speak to it. And Justine even has a different need. So.
Okay, so whenever we're looking for horses, whenever we have a horse in, we always go behavior first, because I find that working through horses, I feel like I can train them, but they have to have a good start. They have to love people. They have to love this job, because what we're asking them to do is super unnatural. We're asking them to, sometimes we have a client that is screaming the entire time, and we're asking them, I'm going to put them on your back, and then I'm going to put 3 people around you, and then I'm going to ask you to just walk quietly. So it's super unnatural, as they were saying. I mean, they're prey animals, so a lion is on their back, and you want them to be okay. So first and foremost is behavior. They have to love it. They have to love people. Second is we go through a very rigorous training process. And what we do is, it's called desensitizing. And we desensitize them to noises, to everything we've seen, and we continue to do it even when they're in the program. And some horses are wonderful at it, and some of them do it for a little bit, and they decide that it's not for them. And that's okay, because they can have a choice. Justine does a little bit different in the mental health program as she does the natural lifemanship. But the biggest thing is just a lot of desensitizing, letting them know that we are supporting them. We are their leader, and that if you just focus on me and trust me, I promise you there is no tiger on your back ready to eat you. It is just a kid smiling. And as soon as that kid comes off, and as you guys notice, the horse turns its head and gives that kid a hug and is like, thank you for not eating me, So it's just a whole lot of desensitizing, and in different ways.
And I would just add to that, a lot of our horses are donated to us. We do buy them, but I would say the majority are still donated. So somebody says, oh, my horse is getting old. He's starting to limp. I want him to have a nice retirement. I'm going to give them to Inspiration Ranch or the Therapeutic Riding Center. It's not retirement. It's not retirement for our horses. They have a job. They have to be kept fit. People call us up and say, well, my horse limps at the walk and he's blind in both eyes, and he's going to make somebody a nice companion, a lawn ornament somewhere, but he's not going to make a therapeutic riding horse. We have to have horses that can carry their load, walk, trot, canter for the most part a lot of times. And in addition to our riders on the riding the horses, our team, our staff conditions them, schools them, and so it's a job for a horse. It's not a retirement.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So we are now at 4:30, and so does anyone else have any questions? These have been really great questions too, by the way. I did have one last one, if I might. So a lot of our population of individuals with NBIA, I'll say in the BPAN world, do have cognitive challenges. And I wanted to ask, how do you understand if mental health counseling might be a good add-on, a good fit? How do we go about inquiring? Is that something that you tend to treat?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we contract our therapists. So it would be based on the therapist that we have at the time, what they specialize in and what they have experience in. So one of our first steps in our onboarding process is matching people with the therapist that we have and having that initial conversation to assess whether we are capable of helping you meet the goals you're trying to meet. So long answer to short, you'd have to call and inquire in and just speak with one of our therapists to make sure that we're able to provide what you need.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes.
And I just want to say, even if the child is under 3, you're still invited to come and visit and see and, see what's going on and maybe watch some other classes. It's basically an open door policy. Just give us a call, tell us, excuse me, we want to make sure we have something going on and we're not on a session break, but definitely come out, visit, and see what's going on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.